Welcome everybody to Forever Bristol City podcast. We're doing the morning after the afternoon before. Where at Turf Moor it finished Burnley 1, City 0. Predictable result, I guess, with Burnley's non-conceding goals, a predictable scoreline. I'm delighted to be joined by Neil and Dave Tuvey, who's not in Spain. He actually went to the game yesterday. And Dave, good to meet you in person.
Hello.
After all this time. Might as well come to you first, Dave. You were there. What were your thoughts when the referee, Mr. Kitchen, who I thought had a very good game actually, when he blew that final whistle? What might have been, maybe?
So I think both managers would have been pretty happy with how it went, but from a fan point of view, it's like I'm not angry. It's just a bit disappointed. We didn't really go there to try and hurt them, to try and give them a bit of a nosebleed, and it kind of went to game plan, but it was very much a nothing game, and it's kind of like, right, that's out the way, now to the big games. But going to an actual game, I think you want a bit more than that, really.
Neil, what were your thoughts?
I think it's one of those games, actually, where everybody reflecting on it beforehand would go, oh, Burnley, yeah, we're not anticipating actually getting anything there. You know, what is it? Something ridiculous now, isn't it? It's sort of about they've lost one game in 56 championship games at Turf Moor over the seasons, ridiculous stats. But I think expectations have been risen a little bit, actually, by the Sheffield United game, by various games recently. And there was a hope that we would be better than what we actually necessarily were. And I think it was a bit of the next two home games are obviously the crucial ones. And as Dave says, yesterday,
that was it was a free hit, if there is such a thing.
Well, I think when you go there and you're within a goal and there's 15, 20 minutes to go, there's nothing lost with going for it. And I don't think we went for it last 15, 20. I mean, Dave was there, obviously, he can talk about it, but just the overwhelming feeling of, God, let loose a little bit, but a Manning team doesn't let loose.
But even when goal difference is quite critical in here, you took 1-0, 2-0.
Points are worth more than goals, though. You can have all the goal difference, but that extra point at the end of the season, somewhere you're going to need it. And it's hard to say. It was a bad performance yesterday. It was just like, can we just go at them a little bit? Because as Neil said, Sheffield United, we genuinely hurt them. Norwich didn't really have an answer. And yesterday it was almost like, well, we're not really at their level. And you talk about belief and you need to believe to go up. And yesterday I did
show them too much respect.
I think so. Far too much respect. And there were too often it was like, we're too nice here. We're too nice here. The amount of times the ball was going into Armstrong or out wide and their players were just clattering into it. And sometimes the referee would give a foul, but most of the time he wouldn't. And it was, we're being too nice here. And it was, the ball would go out of play, it'd be reset, we'll do the build-up, we'll never go left, it will go to Viner, he's got the miracle ball he's got to try and find. He didn't have a great game, but at the same time, he was put in a position where it was so much was expected of him, because when you play so slowly, you have to play perfect football, and Burnley were more than happy with how we set up yesterday.
Well, you said that before we went to live, you said we tried to play them at their own game and they were just better at it.
Yeah, it's like, if you play that way, the team that has the most money and spends the most money on their team will win most of the time. And that's what happened yesterday. And I think it was a very, very comfortable 1-0 win. And I was saying to my friend yesterday, basically, I think we're going to score here at the end because they should have put us away. And because they didn't, you've seen that story many times. And it almost happened. Yeah. And if it happens, we'd be saying, oh, it's a great game plan.
Great point.
But because it didn't,
it's
like, we could have done. We've lost nothing yesterday because no one's surprised by the result.
There was zero expectation.
But the journey does matter. And it was just like, we're better than that. And that was my feeling.
Neil, team selection. I think there were a couple of changes, weren't there? Yeah. What were your thoughts when you saw that, starting with Sinclair? Armstrong?
I don't know. I mean, starting with Sinclair, it's almost like an admission you're not going to have much of the ball. So what are you actually going to do when you've got the ball? But
then you've got to have a bloke who chases it as well.
You've got to have a bloke that chases it. But I think, as Dave said, what are you looking for Armstrong to do when he plays up top by himself? He's not a link-up man. He's not a link-up man. He's a channel runner. You need somebody to play alongside him. And he was just isolated, pretty much the entire game, just isolated. And what you get with Naki in the middle is you get a little bit of a link-up play, a little bit of nouns. So when you have so little of the ball, you kind of fancy Naki to do a little bit more with the lack of time and possession that you have than an Armstrong. He's a strange character at the end of the day. And then going with Twine and Mehmeti.
Doesn't work, does it?
I don't think so. I mean, he's come out afterwards and spoken about Williams and
Little knock, was it, or something?
Yeah, he's got a bit of, by all accounts, he's saying he's got a bit of a niggle and he's just managing his game time moving forward for the rest of the season, because we got a load of proverbial cup finals coming, haven't we? But you're there and you're looking at your front and thinking, well, Armstrong's not great on the press, Twine's not great on the press, Mehmeti's certainly not great on the press. And we just made it so easy for them yesterday, just sort of standing off them.
I think sometimes when you play teams that are so good, your flaws get highlighted. And today, in the fact that we really didn't offer anything on the left-hand side, no build.
Even though we got Pring and Roberts there.
The issue was that because against Norwich, having Roberts as the wing-back was seen to be successful, they did it again yesterday. And it enabled Burnley to kind of go slightly narrower, which meant there were no options through the middle, everything through Viner. And yesterday, for me, that's how far away Armstrong is to go to the next level. It wasn't that he played poorly. It was just
not good enough.
The Burnley defenders had a very, very easy time. And there's a certain thing, when you get physical, do you give away a free kick? And he has a habit of but he just seems so aggressive. And their players, when they were doing it, they would give, from a fan's point of view, well, that's a foul. But on the pitch, the referee's not giving it. But every time that Armstrong does it, it's like he goes up his hyperbole level. Yeah. Like, well, of course you're going to give away a free kick.
Yeah.
Because
he's not subtle.
Like no, exactly. His extra energy is not subtle, and that's the issue.
What did you think? I see McCrory getting a place on the bench, and Harry Cornick, the unlucky man, left out of the 20. If you looked at the rest of the bench there, I mean, Morrison's keeping his place there, but right to leave Cornick out of the 20.
Well, I mean, who would you put him in for? And I guess you would say for Morrison, because why is he there?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Is he paying lip service to the academy just by naming Morrison and saying I've got one in?
He was never going to get on yesterday, and I'd be surprised if he gets a single minute for the rest of the season. But at the same time, I don't. It may have been a kind of game where at the end of it, if you're going for it, two up front. But we're talking about things that we've not seen all season, so they're not going to happen.
He's not going to change it now, is he? Let's get into the action. We started all right actually for the first couple. I thought, oh, this is okay. We got a corner.
Well, we didn't do a Rovers, did we, and concede after 35 seconds?
Is that what they did? They're having a great season.
Have you seen their goals that they've conceded? I'm not going off base there, but have you seen their goals yesterday?
No.
Okay, I urge anybody to see the 2 goals that Bristol Rovers conceded yesterday, and I will show you afterwards. Complete calamities defensively.
Are they?
Yes.
I heard the Hullo goal
yesterday. The first one after 35 seconds was just...
But anyway, look, we had an early corner, and then Bird... Was he subdued yesterday in your book?
I think the game plan yesterday didn't help anybody play, because it was literally stay in this game, don't take risks, don't overcommit. And the amount of times that if we did get any success, it was safety ball next. And it's hard to criticize a player that's got a high passing range when the passing range is off the table, because essentially the outball was Sykes. And when the other team know that, it's difficult.
They close him down all the time. It was interesting. David Moyes was at the game yesterday, I read, and 2 things. I thought Knight was subdued as well.
But he was busy, though.
He was busy. He'd had international duty, but if David Moyes is watching, he's not going to be racing in with an 8-figure bid for Knight based on that performance.
I think so.
Would you?
Yeah, because sometimes you're not looking for, are you having an outstanding game? You're looking for intention, and constantly he's on the move, he's busy, he's active, he's looking. And for example, if you get a consensus that that's not his good game yesterday as a manager, so that's what you're like when you play poorly, I'll take that. If that's one of his poorer games as a manager, I think you'd be more than happy to take that as a poor game.
Fair enough. You'd happily have that. Well, as I say, we had that good start. Jaden Anthony nearly had a game to forget, really, didn't he? Because he had first chance he had on 9 minutes, Brownhill pass. Should have put that one away, really, shouldn't he?
The story of the first half is that a lot of people were saying at half time, could have been 3 or 4 to Burnley. But actually, Max didn't have a lot of saves to do.
No.
There wasn't, an outstanding goalkeeping performance. I think they were just a little bit their application, but that's them all season.
Yeah.
Really, they're not big scorers.
No.
They obviously concede a ridiculous lack of goals that they concede, and 1-0. I would imagine across the betting universe yesterday, 1-0 Burnley would have been the most heavily betted odds, but I don't think they're particularly clinical up front, and that was half the issue with them last season as well, that they haven't necessarily addressed.
Yeah.
But Jadon Adler, he's the guy who obviously scored down at the gate.
Right.
When they beat us 1-0 down the gate, it was Jadon Anthony that sort of scored for him. And he's one of these players that he goes up to the Premiership with Bournemouth, doesn't really sort of, but looks very good at this level, but perhaps isn't quite.
How much did they pay for him?
Is he not on loan?
I don't know.
I think he's on loan from Bournemouth.
He's the sort of player, though, that if they go up and we got money for Semenyo, and they were looking to upgrade, that's the sort of prolific.
He was at Leeds for a while and didn't really sort of do that much at Leeds. I've got Leeds friends, season ticket holders up at Ellen Road, and they don't really sort of rate him at that sort of level. But I think you're talking big wages, aren't you?
That's the problem.
I think this is the thing to be wary of when you even try to evaluate yesterday and possible promotion. Is there was a big gap yesterday. So even if you do get what you want and you get promoted, there's a lot of investment.
Well, there's a different mindset. Well, we can talk about that later.
But the gap was it was a gap of a 1-0. It wasn't close yesterday.
No. Well, we lost. I remember us losing to Leeds recently. Yeah. Well, last season. Well, the season Leeds went up and they beat, but it was a 0-0 draw. But it should have been Leeds in that game because they were totally dominant. And I had an exchange on X with a Burnley fan because I put my tweet at half time said we're still in this. And the Burnley fan was saying, "Oh, how can you say that? You've been rubbish. We should be 3 or 4-0 up." But I said, "No, I agree. You should have been 3 or 4-0 up. But when you're 1-0 down, you're always in it. And the longer the game goes on, the more."
How many times have we said this season and previous seasons we didn't take our chances? We let them in. We let them back in.
Yeah.
And it really did nearly happen.
Yeah.
But it's for me it was just in the first half. Max didn't make too many saves, but it was more because they were putting it wide or they weren't doing what they should have done.
The thing for me, David, with the whole sort of loan things, I've just checked Anthony's on loan from Bournemouth.
Right.
For you. And Marcus Edwards on loan from Sporting Lisbon, and we'll probably talk about him in a little bit. But Marcus Edwards, by all accounts, he's on 70, 80 grand a week, of which Burnley are paying 50,000 or whatever, and they've got this option to buy it at 10 million. And, he's a fantastic player at this sort of level, 12 Champions League goals, all the rest of it. But then you think, getting into the Premiership, the money that is involved in getting into the Premiership, just that sort of mindset. And then you look at the way that we spent money in the summer. And even if you're getting somebody in from the Premiership, Jadon Anthony, say we're talking about Jadon Anthony, where you break your wage structures a little bit, but actually those loans, you don't have the financial commitments. So you gave a 4-year contract to Claire Armstrong. You gave a 4-year contract to Melly. So it's not 100%. It's not just the transfer fees that you're paying; it's the wages, it's the commitments.
And therefore, you say somebody like Jadon Anthony, you come in, you bring him in for a year, and you pay him 50 grand a week. It's £2.5 million. But if it don't work out, you don't get the result. He's gone. You haven't got legacy there or anything like that. That is a mindset, and how we get out of the loop of spending and not break. Because if we did get a windfall for Semenyo this summer, are we going to try and maintain the wage structure? We'll talk about that in a moment. Let's talk about the goal. Knight commits a foul outside. You were right behind.
I thought it was a cheap free kick, to be honest, but
cheap in the context of he didn't need to do it.
I don't really think it was a free kick, but it's ones that referees give all the time, and it's like what you see from players. They feel a touch, they go down. I don't. If Knight isn't there, and he doesn't kind of do what he does, you're like, come on, we need more commitment. But the player just buys it, and then the free kick itself is a high quality.
Twine-esque, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And I've seen a few comments, people thinking like Max could do better. I think, first of all, at the end of the day, from there, if you put it in that corner, and it is in the corner, it is a high quality free kick, and I really don't think Max should be saving.
Well, he was in the right direction for it, wasn't he? I mean, he was clawing, but you've seen some goalkeepers just Oh,
you
that's
know,
gone in then.
on some days, maybe if your position is slightly different, maybe he gets to it. But there's no way you could be saying he should be saving that.
But then that's the Max bashers.
Well, yeah, you know, and then maybe I've been one of them sometimes. But yesterday, I don't think you're saving that. That's going in the net 9 times out of 10, I think.
What did you think, Neil? No blame on Max at all for my part.
I think the thing with Max, we've been a bit critical. Actually, I think he's had a pretty strong last 2-3 months.
Yeah,
actually,
which has coincided with our good form.
And you know, in fairness to Max, but Max O'Leary is a mid-table Championship keeper. He is what we are. I think in relation to it, and the thing about him is that you look in the division, and I was talking to Tom yesterday about keepers, and you look at players like Johansson and Cooper, Travers. You look at Leeds with Meslier and the mistakes that guy makes over the years and all the rest of it. Yeah,
we did a worldie save and a total rip.
Saved a penalty yesterday and then cost them 2 goals,
2 points
in it. And you just think fantastic keepers at this end, but sometimes the stats are a bit skewed, because if you're Johansson at Stoke, you're behind that defence. You're always busy. You've probably got a load of shots against you, so your stats look perhaps a hell of a lot better. What Max O'Leary does particularly well, in my eyes, is when he's busy. He's not great when he's not busy. I'm not sure his concentration is always the best. And when he makes his mistakes is when we're dominating a game and he's got so little to do. Maybe he just switches off or something like that. And that's when the mistakes sort of tend to come in from him. A game like yesterday, he didn't really, like we were saying, I mean, you were there, Dave, but he didn't really have a lot to do yesterday.
No. There was one shot that he kind of parried back into the box in the second half.
He spilled it.
But it did look like, you know, it wasn't the easiest save to make. So, you know, and I do agree, actually, in the last couple of months, I think he's been very, very good. There haven't been so many mistakes. There's been the odd one or two, but they haven't led to goals. And sometimes as a keeper, you're judged on the luck that you get, you know, because I think in a way with Max at the beginning of the season, every mistake was punished. Every knockout seemed to go to a striker. The last couple of games, the odd mistake that he has made hasn't. And he has looked better. And if you'd have asked me at Christmas, will he be the keeper next season? I would have said no. But right now, he's like, I still think he's a mid-table goalkeeper, but he's fighting for his place. You can see a goalkeeper that was maybe under a bit of pressure and saying, no, this is my spot. And if someone's going to take it for me, they're going to have to be better than this. Yeah. And I wouldn't be so disappointed if this version of Max continues, because I think this level of form is acceptable.
He's doing okay, but he's got to have better competition than Bajic. So what does a club do? How do you encourage, you know, you've either got to go better and say, we're buying you to play in the team, or you get another.
Well, the thing is, how many clubs have 2 goalkeepers of equal value that both should be number ones? It doesn't tend to work so well because there's one position. So normally the second one is more than competent if they come in. They're either young or they're experienced. They come in, they do a job, and then they sit on the bench for the rest of the season, because essentially you are there if the keeper gets injured. So they need to decide, we're either sticking with Max going forward and we're going to have this competent keeper or someone for experience, or we're going to replace him. Yeah. Because if we get a keeper, the first thing Max is going to do is like, am I number one? Because if you're not, okay, I'm on.
Well, I'm just looking at Max's where's Max on the contract?
Oh, it's next summer, summer 2026.
I've got
summer 2026.
It's summer 26, is it?
Yeah.
So
he's one of the 8 that Manning spoke about in the week.
Yeah. So there's a lot to happen. They were dominant. I've got here flowing move, Anthony, weak shot, first one he missed, 22 minutes, 32 minutes, Fleming cross under pressure. Anthony nodded the ball wide, and then 33 minutes, a minute after that one, Roberts, the fullback, moved up. Mehmeti didn't track the guy.
This was where all the frustration was, because it's like what you have is, in essence, I think the one you're talking about, you have Roberts is kind of tucked in a bit, and he's saying to Mehmeti, that's your guy, that's your guy, that's your guy. But sometimes it's like, he's free. Yeah. You know, you need to get out there. It's all well and good saying to this guy, this is your guy, but he's not going to come back. And I don't think it works that way around yesterday, having Pring and Roberts in that the way it was. And it was no surprise, as soon in the second half, as soon as Pring went to wing back, all of a sudden there was a bit more offered on that side. And in the first half, the chances that you're mentioning, almost all of it was us getting the ball with a goal kick, taking forever to take it, making sure everybody's set up, doing a couple of passes. It ends up with Weiner, and you're like, right, where's he going to play the ball? He's not getting into Armstrong.
Yeah.
Bird and Twine are essentially out of the game because of the way they've set up and they've narrowed the pitch slightly. Sykes, you're looking for this perfect ball over the top. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And Weiner's like, okay, what am I going to do? And it's like, the more he was giving the ball away, the more nervous he was getting. And it was like a self-fulfilling circle. And
just putting too much on him being a distributor.
Exactly. And Burnley were essentially saying, right, so you're going to play like this. Thank you very much. We know that sufficient amount of times in this half, we're going to nick the ball from you high up. And from that, we'll look to make chances.
But those long balls or those creative balls out of the back, shouldn't Max Bird be doing those, really?
You could argue, but this is where Burnley were very good.
Weiner gives it to Bird and he does a slide rule pass.
The issue is that we didn't have anybody yesterday in any positions that were able to pick up the ball and turn. So very rarely yesterday were you looking for a defender into midfielder, turn and look to attack. But in order to have that mentality, you also need your wing backs to be looking to go. And there were so few situations where I can say yesterday, and in the first half especially, we were in risk-on mode. Even if we did get through a line, it was, wait, this isn't right, let's knock it back again. And we haven't been doing that in the last few games.
We've been bolder.
We've been much bolder. And that for me was the disappointment yesterday. I acknowledged there was a game plan. Stay in the game first. Don't give away a second goal. Or, you know, if you would have offered it to Manning and the team yesterday, right, on the 80th minute, you'll be one down. I think they would have taken it. I think they would have been happy with that. And like, right, okay, we'll.
Is that the right approach to go in at?
Well, I was looking at the reviews yesterday, and Dan Carter, isn't it, for us now? Hayden Roberts. I don't know whether you've seen the review of his review. Okay, so we gave him 5 out of 10. I've just got to read this out. And this is Hayden Roberts for me. Once again, Roberts started in a more advanced role ahead of Cam Pring, and it simply didn't feel as though he ever looked comfortable in or out of possession. His passing was far from perfect. He didn't offer a genuine threat going forward and didn't manage to get particularly stuck in and out of possession. Well, and he gave him a 5, and I'm like, well, that's a very generous 5 at the end of the day, based on what you've actually said about it. And that's Hayden Roberts when he plays at left wing back. Wing backs are a dynamic position, and Hayden Roberts is not a dynamic player. He's a player that likes to get the ball down, a bit like he's got a decent left foot on him. You get the ball down, and he's got a pass that he plays, that he drills a pass in, and it's generally fairly accurate, and it's generally into feet, and you can see a player there. But one thing he is not is dynamic, and you're playing him in a very dynamic position alongside Mehmeti.
Well, that's right. But if you look at that left side, you've got Pring, Roberts, Mehmeti, and effectively, because that's the way he drifts, you've got Twine, you've got all that, and it created the square root of sod all, really, didn't it?
Well, against Sheffield United, Roberts was very, very advanced, and he does this. He's not taking anyone on. He's looking to play a ball, like you said. He does have a good delivery, but to do that, you've got to be in the right spot. And yesterday, he just wasn't, and it has an effect elsewhere because Mehmeti is essentially not getting that help, which means he's got many more people on him, and you just take away the whole left side. There was nothing on the left side yesterday, and it starts with Roberts. And it's actually not his fault because we're comparing him and saying basically he doesn't have this skill. He's been poor there. But like, it was obvious. It was going to happen. And the issue is that the Norwich game has masked that because the performance against Norwich was
a one-off.
Good.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is the way to play now. And it's like, no.
I mean, you just do wonder, and again, it's about being bold, and he wouldn't play him in a month of Sundays, but you wonder playing somebody like Eliasson scored, didn't he? Midweek or created on the international scene. That's our Eliasson. But Morrison, you know, who's got that pace, and you know, you've got experience on that side. You know, you'd love to see Morrison just given a go. It ain't ever going to happen, is it?
I think the issue is that you earn your minutes through the season. You build up your minutes, and then once you get to this point, you're comfortable in the team. We are talking now where at the end of the day, it's results that matter. You know,
you're right.
Up points, and if you put Morrison in and you make a mistake at this, how many promotion chances do you generally get? How long have we been waiting for this? That's a lot of pressure on young
5
shoulders.
years. Neil, we did have a Twiney free kick situation with 5 minutes to go. Didn't even clear the first man, did he?
I'm sure all the Burnley fans watched him yesterday and thought, we did quite well out
Yeah.
of that.
And didn't he go down on one where he did the rolling? I mean, grow up, man.
Turns his body. He needs to go to the Alex school of how to do a foul when you run and then you stop and wait for the guys to do it.
He doesn't sell it very well.
No, he runs and stops and then nobody's following him. So then he turns with his right shoulder.
Yeah.
He's got a very particular way that is completely obvious of turning his right shoulder, almost like, come on, and hit into me. And you just, and then goes down like he's been shot. Yeah. And you just think the ref is like, I think in most games this season, the refs have just got looked in and gone, grow up a little bit, really, and then sort of move on.
And do you agree with me what I said at the start of the podcast that Andrew Kitchen, the referee, you didn't notice him yesterday, which is a sign of a good referee?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kept the game flowing. Do you agree with that?
I thought he was okay yesterday. I don't think he was poor. I think he was buying a lot of their sneaky little foul that they were getting away with, and he could have been firmer in certain ways, but at the same time, you give them credit for their dark arts. They were very, very good, Burnley, in what they did. There were times where they weren't even competing for the ball. They were just like, I'm going to take the man out over and over again, and that's almost where the gap in class was yesterday. And how do you judge a performance against a team that does seem that bit beyond you, but at the same time, they're third?
I know. I have to say, I do find their manager, Scott Parker, a snidey little son. So he sat there with his smart little jacket on because he was banned from the touchline yesterday. But I'm saying that if anybody saw it on Robin's TV, Lewis Carey had a jacket on yesterday that was akin to something that Scott Parker might have been wearing. And I thought Lewis Carey's comments throughout were very, very good. He was very objective. He didn't sugarcoat it at all or anything like that. When half-time came, I tweeted, take off Armstrong, bring on Wells, and then bring on Williams. I didn't hear that he was out injured, but bring on Williams for Mehmeti or Twine, because we were playing with three people up front that, to me, weren't offering much. What were your thoughts at halftime, Neil?
My thoughts at halftime was, is he going to be brave? And then I thought, well, no, the rules of Bristol City are that you don't make any subs generally before 60 minutes. And he didn't disappoint.
He did try. I think he wanted to do it 56, but the way the ball took forever, it was literally 60,
Yeah.
But I think yesterday it came down to a bit of bravery yesterday, I think. And I think at 1-0, he's thinking, I'll just keep it. We might get lucky. We might get a set piece. We might get this. Whereas, do you risk it? And that's where the team is. That's where that 1 point where you take risks. You might concede a second, but you take a risk to get in that game at 1-1. And we didn't do that yesterday. We kind of played it safe, hoping for something that never came at the end of it.
But if you say being brave,
this is what we've said about Manning all season, and yet we are where we are.
But there's seven cup finals to go now, because they are. Unless you suddenly lose the next two or something like that. Is he brave enough? Because he's going to have to be brave at some point.
I think the issue, with the game plan yesterday, first of all, is if you're playing a certain way, it's not easy just to flick through the gears and turn it on all of a sudden and be like, right, we go now. And it took far too long to start to see a sense of urgency yesterday. And as soon as we did start showing urgency towards the end of the game, there was the Wells chance that came. There was the U chance. There were danger moments out.
But why don't they show that urgency?
Because you don't want to necessarily give up too much, and if you're afraid that you're going to get countered on, you're happy with the 1-0. You're thinking we're going to sneak a chance, because essentially how you saw yesterday's game and how you approach it says what you are as a football fan. Do you walk away thinking, well, they were better than us anyway, we were never going to get anything? Or do you walk away thinking every game something's on the table and you're slightly disappointed? Because ultimately, I get the feeling that a lot of people are happy to be there. We're happy, we're finally participating. And I had a bit of that yesterday. It was like, you know what, I wasn't expecting anything today. I'm a bit disappointed, but I'm not angry. I woke up this morning like, no, if you want the playoffs, you have to have that playoff mentality. And the next two games it's true. The next two games.
Well, we look at the next two games for every club, because the future's going to be decided in 80 hours, Saturday,
I think
3 to 10 o'clock.
This season for me is when Manning has used the word bravery. And then I think if we look at when we score our goals and we're just not a 90-minute plus team in that situation. We don't push. That said, Sykes again, Sheffield United and stuff, but generally we're a team that if we get to the last 15, 20 and it's 1-1, then we generally sort of do not push for that winner. That's my feeling of the team this year. He would
and that's
rather,
why it doesn't feel, even though we're up there participating,
Yeah.
that's why to me it doesn't feel like a promotion. There's not a buzz. If we'd have got a point yesterday, the atmosphere at Ashton Gate on Saturday would have been buzzing.
Well, I think that to disagree with you slightly, I think there is a buzz because in the last 3 or 4 games there has been a difference, and I think a lot of people were going yesterday or watching, hoping to see a continuation of that. And maybe I'm wrong here, but I would say a lot of people, the overriding feeling yesterday is, I wanted more than that. The result, I kind of expected it, but I wanted to see more from the team. That's the issue. And to be fair to the team, to be fair to Manning, the last lot of home games, with the exception of maybe Hull, but sending off changed things, they have gone for it. They have kind of beat teams, and deservedly so. And the next 2 games are massive in the season. They're absolutely massive. But I would expect the team to be going from minute 1.
Yeah.
In the next.
Well, they've got to put everything in because they could have been going from minute 1 yesterday.
Is it Darm here that makes an interesting point?
Yeah, go on. What's he said, Darm? I still think only
conserving energy. And okay, I could buy that point. It's an international break. You've got 2 weeks. So I would say, what are you saving energy for?
We haven't got a midweek.
No,
you haven't got a midweek game. I mean, they could have gone for it yesterday, right? They could have given Williams the last 20 minutes when we were, maybe looking for something, because we haven't got a midweek game. It was interesting. I think the commentator made the point yesterday that Burnley had 9 players away on international duty this week. So the fact that they're so well coached is that they were able to come back and it didn't really affect them. Whereas we had, who was away for us this week on duty? Sykes.
Sykes, Armstrong, although Armstrong never got on.
Yeah,
got a minute on the pitch.
I think what you saw yesterday was a team that were just like, we're going to take our time. We're going to build up the way we want to. We're going to find the gaps. And basically, they took the attitude of Burnley of like, this game's going to finish 0-0 or it's going to finish 1-0 to us. We don't mind which one, but this is what's going to happen. And they have a confidence that they're probably going to score.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's why they're third. Is that realistically they should be higher than they are because.
Well, they could go up. If you look at the top of the table now, they could go up as auto.
To be honest, I think they should.
I mean, and look, we got to look at it from the point of view. If they ended up in third, that's who we probably have to beat, because if we're going to go up at all, we're going to finish 6th.
Put it this way: if we finish 6th and get Sheffield United, I would be a lot happier.
I would feel a lot happier. We could even get Leeds, because Leeds have, 2 big points dropped yesterday.
Leeds are Leeds. Leeds do Leeds things every season, But if we assume that they find something of a run and they do finish in the top 2, the 2 games against Burnley, the 2 games against Sheffield United, we went toe to toe with Sheffield United, and the way they play suits us. The way Burnley play, it just doesn't seem to suit us, because in both games they were reasonably. Maybe not the first game, I don't remember it so well, but yesterday they were comfortable. It was as comfortable as 1-0 win as you will see.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the second half. Well, there's not a lot to talk about. Dickey was putting his body on the line, blocking here, there, and everywhere. He's had his critics, Rob, in recent weeks, but he's come back and he's had some good games.
Do you think there's something to be said for the fact that his form has got good as McNally has been injured? There's a bit of crossover there. It's almost like, I think it will be interesting when McNally comes back for next season. Can those 2 play together? Because McNally's got that, let's say, less assured presence where he's like, win ball, ask questions later. Yeah. And I don't think it suits Dickey at all. No. And maybe since he's got injured, it suits Dickey having certain people around him that allows him to go and win the ball, and then they pick up the pieces. But no, I think he played well yesterday. In terms of the defensive setup, it's like Neil said before, how many saves did Max really have to make?
Well, nothing. It was that one that he spilled. The hour comes, and cometh the hour, cometh the subs. McCrory, Wells, Earthy, Roberts, Armstrong, Mehmeti.
No, I've got a theory about Earthy. I'm going to throw out my theory. I think we've done a deal with West Ham over minutes for him, or some sort of percentage.
Do you?
Tom and I were talking about this last night, and it was like, what is it about Earthy that you feel bringing him on at that time? Setting aside the Middlesbrough game and the 2 goals, the one off the crossbar that sort of hit him on the way down and all the rest of it, and the assist that he got.
Stoke?
No, the away game, it escapes me. The assist that he got recently.
I think
one
I know where
of
you're
the
going with
games
this.
was what else
What's he done?
over the course of the season.
What's he done?
And I think with Earthy, when he's coming on, I think we've got to play him. We've got to give him a certain amount of minutes, or there's some sort of
Penalty.
Well, there's some sort of contractual thing with regards to
What penalty?
Because whatever, gentleman's agreement, whatever. I think with some clubs, you're trusted with their young talent. And if you don't do it, and then you go back to them next season and say, okay, it didn't work out with George, but can we have another one? There's a little bit of a doubt. So we've obviously got this thing going with West Ham this year. We can go back to them next year potentially and say to them, look, we did what you wanted with George Earthy. Can we have this person, or can we have that? In the way in which we fell foul potentially with Liverpool, with Ryan Kent back in the day, and then we've never been able to get anybody out of Liverpool again. No. Even if we were potentially in for a Jayden Dans or whatever like that, there's always going to be this concept of it. But it just feels like with Earthy that when we bring him on, he's not the player that you kind of would want on the pitch for it. You kind of like feel like, what are we hoping to get with George Earthy?
Yeah, he's not enough of a differentiator from maybe what we have in even our own academy. He's not that Premier League lone player in midfield that Tammy was when he came. You think, oh, he's good. You've seen it in flashes. But what did you think of Earthy yesterday? Maybe we're being a little bit harsh.
I think, first of all, imagine next season, West Ham say, would you like Earthy again for a year? I'm pretty sure the answer would be no right now. You wouldn't want to take him again next season because he doesn't add enough. But at the same time, he's kind of the odd man out because, as we know from interviews and stuff like that, we got him not expecting to get twine. And he would have been coming here expecting to play a lot, to be starting a lot of games. And maybe you would see a little bit of progression. But he kind of plays in such a position that you need a run of games. You need to be starting. You need to be the man. It's kind of the essence of the number 10 role. You are the man and the game goes through you. And he's not the man and the game doesn't go through him. And he's young to an extent that you can see like little bits that there's a talent there. But at the same time, it's like, he's just a maybe 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 game. He's on the pitch. He's got energy. He does a little bit. But if you're a number 10, you've got to be so much better than that.
Wouldn't it have been better to have had Stokes here this season? If we'd have known we got Twine, kept Stokes, and then given him the odd few minutes that Earthy was getting few minutes at the start of the season, partly because of injury, but partly because the manager wasn't selecting him. And Cambridge have gone to rat shit a bit recently, so Stokes is a part of that team. But you want to have your youngsters. There's got to be some place for youngsters. And what do you say to that, Neil, about Earthy?
Well, Earthy gets on the pitch. What's he? He runs around a lot.
Yeah, but that's it.
And he gives you a certain energy on the pitch, but he doesn't give you a physicality. He doesn't give you, a threat. And then, okay, you'd be expecting more from him, I think. But then, for me, these Premier League under-21s now, across the Championship, I'm sure fans of the other 23 clubs will probably be there going, oh, yeah, we've had quite a few of these Premier League under-21. I don't think the league is particularly competitive. The Premier League sort of under-21s, I think they're in there, that they're looked after. They're not,
they're not hungry. They're not hungry lads.
We got lucky with Tammy Abraham. Let's put it. We got lucky, and that started that season when it was him and Kadisha up front for a month. Christ, we just thought, what it's going on. But for that, across the board, you just see teams thinking, oh, we got this Premier League lad coming in. He's really good. He's 18, 19 and all the rest of it. And you put him into the Championship and it's a physical league. It's a physical league and it's a quick league. You don't have the time on the ball. And how many of these Premier League under-21s come into the Championship and really have an effect? And you're paying big money for them. Yeah. You're paying big wages because they're on stupid contracts. But
I wonder how much. I wonder how much. Because you said who is it? The lad who was on loan at Burnley. He's on 50 grand a week.
Marcus Edwards. But then Marcus Edwards,
With an option
he's got 12 Champions League goals.
No, but I'm just saying,
he's been
it's
doing
50
it top
grand.
level.
He's costing them 50 grand a week. How much are we paying for Earthy on a weekly basis, do you think?
I wouldn't say anywhere near that, but
No.
I would say there's a loan fee attached, which probably bumps up the total package.
That's what I'm saying. You know, we always like.
I think when it comes to players, sometimes you have to, like, what are you expecting them to do? What's the result? And really, I mean, who's in front of Earthy, for example? I think yesterday he came on with Wales, but he's not exactly got an outball on one side, and you're asking your number 10s to do certain things. And if we talk about Twine,
well, what did he do yesterday?
But the issue is that as a setup, you can talk about, you know, giving space for your number 10s and things like that. But your number 10 needs to be your most creative position. But you can only have it if players allow you to give you outballs. And if you bear in mind that essentially Sykes is our one outball that happens to pop up and score crucial goals, if you don't have enough around you, like the left-hand side as a wing-back, for example, that's one outball you don't have. If you have Armstrong that isn't the best at understanding dangerous runs to create chances, that's another outball you don't have. And if Twine is our main man and it's not been great in open play, how do we compare Earthy to that? And maybe just maybe it's by the way the team is set up and they're performing their role, but they're not giving creativity, and that's the issue.
Well, again, creativity, braveness.
I think the thing with Twine, going to the Twine, his last goal, I've just double-checked it there. His last goal was the home game against Blackburn. So that's 2 months now with Twine. And when you don't get the set pieces, when you don't get the goals, albeit, you know, he hit the bar against Borough, didn't he? And he dropped down, and in that sort of area.
But he is our star man. We paid a lot of money, and he's not doing it consistently.
I'd say he's probably the top owner at the club.
Yeah.
Well, I know Zach got an extremely good deal on his way.
Good, so like Ian Gay there, I know.
If you look at the last few games, you look at Norwich, Sheffield United, and Millwall. Put Hull to one side. What was the strength of those games? It's the pressing. It's the winning the ball high up.
Intensity.
It's not letting them play. It's intensity. And when you pick the ball high up, we're making things happen. Essentially, the 2 goals for Norwich that we scored were both because the way they wanted to play, taking advantage of them. Middlesbrough are the perfect team for us to play because we press high. Every time that we have to go through the stage of sitting off and trying to create, we don't create enough because the options aren't there. As soon as we switch around and we're trying to win the ball high, Mill's an example. Mill was supposed to be a real tough game. They were going long. We were forcing them to go long. Thank you very much. And then we were looking to break faster. As soon as we switch into this slow build-up, we don't have the players to play that way.
No, and we look bang average.
The reason I say that is if we're not getting that from Twine, who's an established player, it's a bit harsh for us to say, well, Earthy's not doing it because...
Yeah, no, you're right.
That's the issue.
Lewis Carey, I commented earlier about his very objective comments, and he said, you know, when Mehmeti came off, Mehmeti was somewhat indignant at being taken off. And Lewis said, well, there's 2 ways of looking at it, you know, that you want players that want to play. But when you've been given your chance, you've been on the pitch for an hour and you haven't really done much, you know, you've got to step aside for somebody else, haven't you?
He's had an interesting couple of months, hasn't he? He had a massive purple patch, and he sort of, and then he's been in and out of the team, and then he's not in the Albania squad now, and there's a few things going on with him, I would say, and he's one of those people that you're going into next season, and again, we were talking about this last night, you know, the 8 players that are out of contract summer next year, so within the next 15 months. And Mehmeti's not going to be on a big sort of salary or whatever like that coming from Wickham. And like Sykes was coming from Oxford, they're going to be saying, all right, I'm established international now, I'm an established championship player. These are my sort of wage demands, and they're going to be significantly more. And they're probably going to be able to justify that. Mehmeti's going to finish our top scorer this season, you know, and they're probably going to just... But is Mehmeti a guy that's going to get you into the playoffs?
He's a partnerships guy. If you look at Mehmeti and his performances have dropped off quite a lot since New Year's Day. Pring got injured on New Year's Day. It's not a coincidence. And since New Year's Day, off the top of my head, his one good performance was the Stoke game at home. Apart from that, has he really had a game where you can say Mehmeti was outstanding? No. Because he's lost that extra bit of pace, because he beats a man, but he's not supremely quick, shall we say.
No.
And he needs that extra bit of help out wide. Right now, he's not getting it.
No.
And he needs Pring to be playing there. You know, he really, really does, because that offers something extra, which lets him to go and do his thing. But I don't think it's a coincidence.
So that's pairings in different parts of the pitch.
I think for Mehmeti, pairings are huge, and it's not a coincidence that his form has dropped off since New Year's Day, the day that Pring got injured.
And his confidence as well, Dave.
But that's it.
There's been times in some of the home games recently where he's found himself in positions and he just wants that extra touch the Mehmeti way. Just wants that extra touch just to open up, and they know that he's cutting in on his right or whatever like that with it. So they put a block on him as he cuts in. But just generally, his body language at the moment, he seems low in confidence. You know, he's always been an up and down sort of player.
And he'd be disappointed at not getting in the Albanian.
To be honest, when it comes to I think he is low on confidence at the moment. But when it comes to reactions about being subbed, I think it's something that you just have to. You want every footballer to be annoyed, because what kind of footballer is going to who? Can you imagine any footballer being like, "Yeah, mate, I want to come off. I'm ready." You want them angry, because that means that, at least in his mind, he's thinking, I can affect this.
You want them angry when you're taking them off for performance reasons. Because you might say to Sinclair Armstrong knows he's going to get hooked every game on 60 minutes, doesn't he?
Well, I do think, as someone who's managed teams as well, I think this generic 60 minutes thing, I mean, when the players are looking up at the clock and they see 56, 57, 58, then they tend to sort of drop off themselves as well. They know, I'm coming off in a minute. And it's kind of a mental thing, the spontaneity a little bit. It would be interesting to see, the stats, the Opta stats about the 5 minutes before the subs.
Well, they'll know all that, though, with their running and what have you.
This is it. They know that the changes are coming, and then there's always a little bit of flatness before our subs. We don't seem to like the subs come on at a time where we're absolutely in the ascendancy or anything like that. It seems to be the 5 minutes for the subs. They know it's going to happen, so they're like, oh, right, okay, just about to go off.
Dan Tools, substitution on 70 minutes. You coming on for Sykes, I guess, an element of predictability. But as you said, Dave, you were at the game, and we sort of upped it for the last quarter. And Zach on 75 minutes. That was one of his good balls forward, one of the few good balls forward, because it found Naki. And I think Naki, of 31 years of age, not coming up 35, he might have done better than what happened yesterday, because that was attacking your end.
Yeah, I would go further and say that Naki of any age should be doing better, because ultimately it was a decision. He chose not to shoot. He chose to try and do something else or just to touch. It wasn't a case of the defender got, but it's just a case of indecision. It kind of feeds into the whole game and the mentality of everything, of not quite risk on mode. You're in on goal, you've got your chances. You might not score, but take your chance. You're a very, very good striker. This is your moment, and it's that indecision. You don't get it at a certain level. You have a shot at goal, take it. And unfortunately, he just didn't. And that for me was the frustration thing. If you balloon it into the stands, it happens. But take the chance. But instead, it was: do I shoot? Do I cut back? Do I go a bit left? And in the end, you get nothing. And you expect so much better from Wales in that spot.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Neil?
Yeah, I think with forwards, you have a situation whereby, as they get older, the body isn't what it used to be, and so much of what you're doing is muscle memory. I would say, in that sort of situation, you do things naturally. He's probably been through academies and as a young player playing a certain way and all the rest of it. And then you come to that sort of age and you find yourself, and he always had a little bit of pace over 4 or 5 yards from me. He was a nippy little box player. And now he's being asked to come deep and sort of link up and spin in behind, and he hasn't got the pace to get in behind. And we're not really playing to his strengths because the wing backs aren't getting forward to get the cross in. When they have, Sykes has put some wonderful crosses in for this season, and he's scored, some decent headers this season for him. So he's still that jack in the box type thing. But in those sort of situations, sometimes when he has a decision to make, I think sometimes you just see the age sort of creeping in there, and the sort of the live wire element of it. And it's rare that you have the players that seem to go on a bit longer are the lumps. Do you know what I mean? The balls that are playing in, I can do this, I can do that.
Well, look at Chris Martin, who he's out for the rest of the season now, but he's that sort of player that he never had any pace anyway.
The WSM season, he was perfect with Semenyo and perfect with Bowman, wasn't he?
So he did all the running.
Who would you play in the next game? Who would you start? Who would be your starter?
Yeah.
You go Armstrong or Wells? Yeah.
Wells.
Why?
Because I think Wells, actually, I think you've highlighted it already with the press. We've got to go out there and we've got to put the press on. I watched Watford yesterday against Plymouth. Not great defensively, but playing out from the back as well. They make errors playing out from the back. They're not particularly comfortable. The only guy I really like at the back for them is Andrews at right back, who scored against us at Vicarage Road. And he's a decent sort of wide right player. But I think you go into that, you put that forward press on, and I think Wells is integral to that press on it. But he's that live wire. I think Armstrong, you know, the amount of times where he's standing there, and the guy's got the ball there, and he doesn't go.
It was in the first half yesterday, and I noticed that we had the ball, and you could see he did, and you could see players were looking for him to do something, and he just didn't know what to do for the best. That was just my view.
I think this is the case with him. It's the progression part of understand. Like you could see somebody thinking about football yesterday rather than playing football. As the ball's going around him, he's like, "Am I supposed to go here? Am I supposed to go here?" Yeah. It's not the energy. It's not the effort. It's just a striker not quite sure where they're supposed to be on the press, playing against a team that are very comfortable playing out, and you've got to be almost perfect when you're trying to press.
My wife, who's a season ticket, the whole season has called him the fridge. And then we just refer to him as a fridge. In E32, the group of us that are there, the season ticket, we just called him fridge. He looks like a rugby winger. You give him the ball there, send him down the wing, and he does it. As a footballer, I don't know. He looks at that sort of player that he got into the QPR team at a very early age. Would he have benefited from a League Two loan, a League One loan, where you learn a little bit?
But he was never a regular. He had all those appearances, and most of them were off the bench.
But playing at the Championship, so he's got all these Championship things. But has he actually developed as a Championship player?
This is the issue with
League One and League Two loan. Might have been better for him earlier on in his career.
This would make sense in a way because you do see flashes with him. Like you see certain bits where he's running the channel and he puts the kind of correct pressure on and wins throw-ins and he's trying to do the right thing. But what you saw yesterday was a gap between high quality defenders and a mean defence. Yeah. He didn't get a look in yesterday. No. I don't think.
Let's look at the closing stages of the game. 10 minutes ago, Sam Bell comes on for Scott Twine. And I just wrote FFFs on my notes because I thought, what does that mean? I mean, if it was going to happen, it could have happened earlier. Could even start Sam Bell up front against Watford, playing down the middle, good on the press, and what have you. I'm getting blank faces with that suggestion.
No.
Why not start Sam Bell?
The thing is, I believe we did that on Boxing Day or one of the games around Christmas. I just don't think he will. I think that Armstrong or Wells, and he's rotating those two. And when it was needs must, he put Bell there. But Bell was okay.
He's okay. I mean, I can't say I rate him, but he drew a foul on the 86th minute. I think it was Roberts, the fullback, took him down. And you think, oh my God, I wish Scott Twine was still on the pitch.
Yeah.
And it was a dreadful free kick. It didn't even. No. It just went straight into the wall.
Onto Bell, first of all. I'm torn with him because sometimes you see little flashes with him. You see an energy. You see a vibrancy. But at the same time, when a player is being played in so many different positions, it's hard to get a run in the side. And I think his biggest issue is he comes across as being too nice. I don't see a vicious footballer.
No, he looks about 12 when you see him close-ups on the camera.
Because he actually yesterday, him playing and having that little bit of energy kind of had a trickle effect on the whole team. And in the last, in my opinion, it wasn't enough of the game. But as soon as we started to ask questions, we looked dangerous.
Yeah.
I could
Well, he drew the free kick.
Dave Febs has shown me a lot of information on this. That the expression "I could feel a goal coming" essentially doesn't exist. But yesterday we did have momentum. You could feel like something could happen here. We're creating.
Well, a bit like Sheffield United, because there was some similarities with that game. Because Sheffield United are a good team. They showed that when they beat Coventry on Friday night. But
I think I went to Millwall on a Tuesday night. The madness of Millwall on a Tuesday night. and what was it Wednesday night? Either way, midweek. And when Bell came on at left wing back, he actually had a really positive impact on that game. And he made a number of decent runs, bit of pace up top. It gives you a bit of pace. And obviously that ball over the top, Cornick wins the flick on. It's Bell running in advance of Cornick on there. And he just created chaos in the middle. Then Cornick scored. And he does have, when the game is stretched, the issues that he's had a few times this season is when we're trying to see a game out and we bring Bell on. And then Sunderland away.
I was going to say, he was at fault. He lost his man at Sunderland away.
When he dangles it out, and then the Norwich game, he wasn't great when we almost let them back in with that 87th minute goal.
But this is the issue.
But that's not his game.
No,
we're asking him to do something that is not his game.
And that is the biggest issue. He's not a player to come on and see out games. He's someone that his danger is going forward. And in essence, yesterday he came on, he played on the left, and essentially Roberts is on the left and you put Bell on the left. So it's like, in a way, I'm saying I'm pleased because we had an attacking outlet there. But I think you have to bear in mind that last season he was starting pretty much every game, and he's gone from a starter to a sub. And whether or not he goes forward, again, how long's he got left here?
He's summer next year.
Summer
26.
Lots of those summer 26 decisions need to be taken this summer in some shape or form.
Well, Pring there as well.
Yeah,
summer 26. Right. There's quite a few players that we gave 3-year contracts to in 23 that you look at now, and you've just got.
Have you seen enough from Bell? Do you see a player that you say good squad player, I want to keep you, or do you think it's thank you very much, it's time to move on?
Well, I think what we've done this season is we've actually achieved the position we are with a very small squad. Actually, when you look at the other squads in the division, we've got a very small squad. And Bell has been a squad player with it. But do you give somebody a 3-year contract or a 2-year contract because they are a squad player? And then you've just got you probably
give it to him because he's Mickey Bell's son. But that's by the by.
Wow.
We came away. We got the defeat. I mean, what was it? That made it 26 games unbeaten for them. They'd only conceded 2 goals since Boxing Day up to yesterday. And our last 14, 16, 17 games, 8 wins, 6 draws, 3 defeats. It's pretty good form. We roll on. We got a free week. We have got a free week. Didn't realise the Premier League was off yesterday. So that's quite. But there's only 2 or 4. So they're assuming that 8 Premier League teams are going to be involved.
Otherwise, if you're being generous, you're saying giving importance to the FA Cup. It's quarter-final weekend. Focus on the cup and have it midweek.
I reckon the Premier League just probably said to them, "Can we just have a free week?"
Well, it's great.
They've had the internationals in the week.
Yeah.
And they complain about fixture congestion and all the rest of
it. But they still go off to Dubai and play exhibition games like Aston Villa.
Whether they did it on purpose or not, for once it's football authorities getting something right, just leaving it open for the cup.
Yeah.
I would imagine a lot more people watch those games.
We're talking about the cup. We're recording this in knowledge that Forest and Palace have got through. Wouldn't it be nice if the other semi-finalists, I mean, if it was Preston and Bournemouth, blimey. But Villa and Bournemouth, I mean, Man City got to be thinking their names on it this year unless there's a disaster.
I won't go that far. They've not been good enough. I reckon. I can't fancy
goal for Semenyo this afternoon.
Yeah. Bournemouth at home. That is a tough game for Man City.
Yeah.
And Bournemouth, when they are on it, they can beat anybody.
I wonder if Alex Scott will come on and show his potential because he really hasn't done. I know he's had injuries, but he's really not done it.
People say the FA Cup doesn't have any magic in it, and when you look at this season, if Man City go out, all of a sudden there's a lot of teams that haven't won the cup or never have.
It'll be great, but it's good for football. Exactly. It gives everybody a shot.
The thing, Forest yesterday, I hadn't realised that they turned around and said it's the first time they've been in the semi-finals of the FA Cup since 1981,
which was the Gascoigne year.
91, sorry, since 91. So then you're like...
That was a Gascoigne.
Gascoigne
did his near the first cup.
Gary Charles.
That's right.
When he went in.
It's very retro this year with Villa and Forest being...
And Preston.
But it's nice though, isn't it?
Right.
It's a nice...
Let's look at where we are. There's 4 points separating... 2 points separating 4 teams. And we said... the 4 teams: West Brom, Coventry, Borough, and ourselves. Let's look at the games coming up for us. So Watford at home and West Brom at home. They are 2 dog-eat-dog fixtures we've got coming up. We have to get. So let's look at it. Who's on 59 points? Coventry are on 59.
Coventry 59.
Coventry, and then there's West Brom are on.
Well, Coventry are home to Burnley.
Yeah, all right. Hang on. What are West Brom on in terms of points?
Same as us.
57, but a better goal difference.
The 3.
Borough on 57. All right.
And Watford 53.
I'm ignoring Watford.
Well,
I might not ignore them off, and then us on 57. And we got a better goal difference than Coventry at the moment. So let's look at our fixture. So if we have to get 4 points as a minimum, so I'm going to say 4 points. That would put us on 61 plus 4. Right. Let's look at the other teams.
I disagree with that. Sorry.
You think we'll get 6?
No, I think we have to go for 6.
Oh, I know we have
to. Because no. Why can't we beat?
All right.
West Brom and Watford.
All right.
Let's go for it.
All right.
I mean, ultimately, there
63 points.
You've got West Brom.
All right. So I'm going to look at the other teams.
Don't give them a point.
All right. So So Sunderland, West Brom have got Sunderland home, City away. So how's their game against Sunderland going to go? Win?
I think we have to win.
No, I'm talking about West Brom now. West Brom.
Who have they got? Sorry.
They've got. We're saying they're going to lose against us on the Tuesday, but next Saturday West Brom have got Sunderland. What's that going to be?
The issue is the Championship is so hard on any given day. You don't know.
So West Brom are going to go on to 50. I'm trying to predict what it might look like at 10 o'clock on Tuesday night.
The one thing about West Brom is they don't score a lot of goals.
Yeah. All right. I said a draw. They're going to lose. They're going to draw at home against Sunderland. They're going to lose to us. Coventry, Burnley at home. 0-0. That's a draw.
The issue that you've got, right? So first of all, it's April, and how long has it been since you go into April looking forward to the next game because it's huge, and the next 2 games are essentially why you go to football, why you watch it, why you invest time, and going into the next 2 games. At some point, we need to bridge this extra couple of points.
We got to be brave.
At some point,
so we got to be brave.
Now, to stay in the playoff race, beat West Brom. This is a minimum requirement. Beat West Brom, because ultimately, if we lose to West Brom, then we're playing.
Well, that's what I mean. It's in our hands at the moment. But you said earlier, before we went live, that look at the League One table, or it might have been you. You said look at the League One table, same number of games played, and 57.
Like 62.
Sixth is 62 points.
Exactly. So they've played.
So let's look at Coventry's fixtures. Burnley at home, that's a point, I would think. Yeah. Portsmouth at home, you're going to win that. So I'm going to give Coventry 3 points. So Coventry are on 63. Right.
You have to bear in mind this is the league that nobody wins, because the one league below it, they play 1 game less and they're on 62 points in the playoffs. In terms of what do you need to do to get into the playoffs? Ultimately, look, 4 points in the next 2 games will be okay. If you take 6, you have
that's what we've done. That's what we've done, because I've looked at Borough's next 2 games. Blackburn away, I'll give that a draw, and Leeds at home, I'll give that a draw. So put Borough, they're on 59. Right, so come 10 o'clock on Tuesday night, and I'm keeping this bit of paper, 10 o'clock Tuesday night, right, we are actually in 5th, because we got the same number of points as Coventry. We got a better goal difference.
If we win both.
If we get 4 points, right, we are in 6th.
I suspect if going forward, if you take 4 points from the next 2 games, the season rolls on. But there's going to come certain games that they are like, okay, the must-win game comes sooner. If you spoke about the buzz earlier on, if you take 6 points from the next 2 games, it's not going to be a buzz. It's going to be like a lightning storm of fire.
Yeah.
I personally think that we're going to find out just who we really are in the next 2 games, and what do fans want to see? You want to see a team coming out of the blocks against Watford, because even if it's 3 points, for example, or 2 points from the next 2 games, the season isn't over. But this is the point now to make a statement, and it is 6 points, worst case scenario, 4 points, because that's what you need to do. But having said that, this is the league that nobody wants to win.
Yeah.
The team from 5th down have a habit of losing a lot of games.
Yeah.
So assuming that other teams will pick up points might not even be the case.
Yeah. I mean, look, we're going to be in a situation, you just know it, where whatever happens, we're going to be in the playoff mix even with 4 games to go probably. And then you've got to look at it and say, that's success. The board have delivered a playoff challenge. But then the naysayers, and we've been accused of that on here, or we are, the same woulda, coulda, shoulda. What if we hadn't conceded those 2 goals against Sheffield United? What about that one at Plymouth? And
That's football.
But we will. But you can't argue with the fact that despite a shit transfer window when it comes to attacking, our spending in attack, we've done it. We've done it.
This is the quandary that is Liam Manning, though, isn't it? I mean, have people actually enjoyed the football this year? I think, but has the football, in theory, been effective? And that is a quandary Manning. I have to say, if I was looking at the season so far, I found large periods of our play quite boring.
Yeah,
I think, and quite. But there have been games. I enjoyed the Middlesbrough game.
Yeah. Norwich. Even though we lost to Sheffield United,
there are games that you think, come on, and actually, when we go for it, we have got the players there. Sometimes you look at the players and you just think, unshackle the players, unshackle them.
Yeah,
just say to them, you go onto the pitch now and you just go for it, and the self-belief, and don't get into this horseshoe reset type thing. Just go for it. And in the first 20 25 minutes against Norwich, they went for it. And we could have been 3.
We could.
Amazing save. Wales missed that open goal. The keeper somehow got it on. We would have been 3-0. And we're like, great.
No, exactly.
So when we are good, but when we are this ponderous, process-driven, trust the process, trust the system, trust this, it's not entertaining.
So the main beneficiary of where we finish this season will be Liam Manning, because he'll say, I got a Bristol City team even if we finish 7th, I got a Bristol City team in the playoff mix for the first time in 6 years. That's it. End story.
When it comes to entertainment and football, this season with City, it's been a process, because I struggle with certain aspects of modern football because I find it too slow. But at the same time, if I reflect, and if we go back, like Stoke was a cruise, Cardiff wasn't great, Middlesbrough was a great game to watch. Millwall was different questions, more than happy with the performance. Hull wasn't the best, but for 10 men reasons. But since then, Sheffield United, Norwich, perfectly good games of football. And by and large, in maybe the last 6 or 7 games, more have been good than bad. But the time is now. Because ultimately, I think I don't know what the numbers are, but I would guess that finishing 6th this year will be the lowest points total for quite some time. And you take it now because you don't know what's going to be next season. I don't think, the irony is next season, at the end of it, I don't think Manning will be here. And there will be quite a large amount of people that actually be happy about that. And that's the paradox we live in right now. Knight, there's no guarantee here next season. You've got to find a replacement. And as the transfer windows have shown, it's not as easy as just, we've got that money, let's replace him.
No.
So if you've got this opportunity, and sometimes life and football presents it, take it. And yesterday, I didn't see a team looking to take an opportunity. However, in the few games before it, do you remember maybe 4 or 5 podcasts ago at the end when you said, do you still believe? And I said, yes. I've seen it. My yes was probably no, but in the games, it's like, they're going for it. They're going for it. I don't want to see yesterday. In the next few games, if we go for it and we don't make it, no complaints.
No, but that's the thing. Yesterday, if we'd have lost 2-1 yesterday and we battled, you'd say, well, we didn't expect to win, but we put in a performance. And that's what we often say about City is the performance. If you put in a good performance, you can say, well, we were unlucky, but we tried.
No.
And yesterday, I'm not saying we didn't try. We were up against a very good team, but we were flat. And that was the term. I said that there were some flat individual performances, not poor ones.
No, that's a very good expression for it yesterday. And at the end of the day, when you get to the end of the season, if you've made the playoffs or finished just outside, people remember how you did in the running. Look at Leeds. The Leeds have the song of falling apart because that's what they do at the end of the season. No one remembers individual games as you build up, because football happens. You lose points, you gain points. It's not robot football. But I just want to see people. And yesterday it wasn't it for me yesterday.
Okay, guys. Well, look, Dave, great to meet you in person for the first time and have you here. And
It's always good to know that David's an AI or anything like that. Really,
Yeah, he's not a bot.
No, he's just not a bot on the screen or anything like that. Yeah,
we will be doing. I should be looking at the camera when I'm saying it. Look at these. We will be doing our thing on the Watford game Sunday morning. So you'll be here for that one, I would imagine, and you probably as well. Yeah,
potentially.
Yeah, you won't be here.
No,
You'll be
I'll
online.
be there.
We'll be looking down the camera.
Our Spanish correspondent.
Our Spanish correspondent, Dave Fevs, is coming on for the West Brom game, which we'll be doing on the Wednesday morning. But all to look forward to this week. Thanks for everybody that's listened while we've been recording this on a Sunday morning, and those of you that listen on Spotify. Hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed doing it. All the best, everybody. Have a good week until Saturday against Watford. Goodbye.